All right, you're listening to Eagles post-game analysis here at the Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast Show, the longest-running weekly Philly sports podcast show in the world. The Philadelphia Eagles absolutely pissing away this Week 5 game against the Denver Broncos. They lose to the Broncos down at the Linc, their first loss of the season, first loss at Lincoln Financial Field by a score of 21-17. We are going to get into our themes of the game as we do after every Eagles game. And also, we're going to grade each unit as well. I'm Jeff Warren. I'm here with my good buddy from PhiladelphiaSoccerNow.com. Over the years, he has filled in for the guys. And in terms of doing some Eagles post-game analysis here, Josh Schuster. Josh, you know what? Maybe we should just talk about the fact that the Philadelphia Union were the most impressive and most important winning team here in Philadelphia this past week when, locking in the supporters shield here. Maybe we should just talk about them instead of this dumb Eagles team at this point. Jeez.
Yeah, Jeff, I thought that's what we were here to talk about today.
Oh, okay. I must have.
Union are the best team in the MLS, and
yeah, they are
going to compete for a championship, and that everything is sunshine and rose petals here in Philadelphia. The other teams are not having any problems at all whatsoever. It's fine.
I guess I confused you. I guess I confused everybody with the ticker on the bottom here, the banner. I should just put Philadelphia Union are great. That's what I should put at this point. But I wanted to mention that just because, you know what, folks, there is something good happening in the world of Philly sports, and that is the Philadelphia Union at this point. But yes, we do have to get into this Week 5 matchup between the Broncos and the Eagles. On the injury front, Landon Dickerson going out with an ankle injury in the first quarter. We know he's been nursing the back injury. Grant Calcaterra went out with an oblique injury as well. We're going to be keeping tabs on what happens with these two players over the course of this next week before Week 6. But let's start off with the themes, buddy. Look, man, coming into this game, the Eagles offense had the highest rate of 3 and outs in the entire league. They had 2 in the first half, and they had a few in the second half as well. And interestingly enough, the offensive play calling, I think, actually went how most fans wanted it to go this week. Perhaps. I say perhaps because before that final, quote, drive of the game where the Eagles only basically had about, 30 seconds, 50 seconds of the game to try to win it, and we knew they weren't going to. At that point, right before that last drive, 33 pass plays to 11 rushing plays. Again, before that final drive of the game. A.J. Brown catching the ball more. He was targeted 8 times. He came down with five catches for 43 yards. DeVonta Smith targeted 10 times. He came down with 8 yards. Came down with 8 balls for 114 yards. Saquon Barkley had a touchdown. Dallas Goedert had a touchdown as well. Not a terrible game for Jalen Hurts in terms of his numbers. But look, this was an offensive failure, I think. I hate to use the word failure. Is it a failure with what they did?
Did they win?
You're absolutely correct. They did not win. But what my point here with this theme is, we wanted them to do something. They did it. We did see success, but at the end of the day, the offense faltered. They still faltered, even after doing what we wanted them to do. And after 2 of our wide receiver duos, some of the best in the NFL, got more targets this week, came down with more balls, it still wasn't enough. And that makes me wonder what the hell is happening with this offense.
So I'm not going to pretend to be a football genius here. But just because the fans want something and they got it, it doesn't mean that it's still good. The play calling is not good. The play calling results in one of 3 things on every single play. 1, it's going to be a screen. 2, it's going to be a deep pass. Or 3, it's going to be a run play. That's it. That is the playbook that the Philadelphia Eagles have. It is the exact same offense as 2 years ago when Nick Sirianni was working with his buddy in calling the plays.
Yep.
This is a problem. I don't understand how anyone can tell me this is not a Jalen Hurts issue, right? Like, I'm not going to die on the Jalen Hurts hill or whatever. We don't have a Jalen Hurts issue. We have a quarterback who's executing the plays that are called.
Absolutely.
The problem is the play calling is horrendous. I think there's another little aspect to it, which we're going to get into a little bit later. I really am very concerned about the play calling on this team. I don't think it's very good. I think it's very predictable. And I think that's why for every single game this year, there has been an entire half where the Eagles offense has just disappeared. Jeff, we are at week 5. They have not played a 60-minute football game at all, even 45 minutes.
Yeah.
They have not been able to play a 45-minute football game. They've gotten away with it. They've been winning, but at some point it's time to pay the piper. Now, the Broncos have a good defense, right? Like, I'm not going to say they have a terrible defense, but the amount of money that is invested in the offensive side of the ball, I don't want to hear anything about the defense blew this game.
Yeah.
Before we hopped on, the Philadelphia Eagles through the 1 p.m. game have scored enough points to beat 2 teams and to tie with the Cleveland Browns from this morning. That's it. And there is no team in the NFL that has invested more money at multiple positions on the offensive side of the ball. It's inexcusable. The play calling is horrible.
Yes. So it comes down to the play calling here. And you know, every week, that's what we are talking about, Josh. That's what we've been talking about every week on this post-game podcast is the play calling. And yes, I did want to also bring up the penalties that were self-inflicted wounds. That is a theme of this game. Penalties that were not called during this game. And I'm somebody who has gotten away from the whole penalty aspect of games when, you know,
thanks to me.
Yeah, thanks to you. And quite frankly, thanks to Len too. He would tell me, Jeff, shut up with the penalties, would you? After years of doing it, I was like, okay, we'll get away from the penalties. But it does go to show that penalties that are not called can influence the course of a game. Not necessarily the outcome, the course of the game. Now, what was part of the outcome of the game was Zach Vaughn making a horrendous decision to come in right at the end of the game and get that personal foul penalty. That was horrendous, and he knows better than that. He really does. Undisciplined, predictability is what you said, and it comes down to coaching at the end of the day. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I think, you know, so for me, Jeff, you know, I've said it I've probably done these for a couple of years now on the post-game shows. I've said officiating will never cost the game. And I stand by that today.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The Eagles had multiple opportunities. There are bad calls every week. Guess what, Jeff? The last 4 weeks, there have been bad calls.
Yes.
The Eagles have won those games. So we can't say it costs them here, but it doesn't cost them for 4 straight weeks. It doesn't work that way for me.
Right.
What I will say, there is a very serious issue, and this has been for weeks now. And this has actually been during the Nick Sirianni tenure. And he is a Super Bowl winning coach, so I'm not going to go too hard in on this. They have a discipline issue in the sense of Calcaterra on the first drive. I'm not even going to talk about a penalty. I'm going to talk about something else. That first incompletion from Jalen Hurts, I think it was his first incompletion. Calcaterra stopped running on the route. It wasn't a bad pass. It was a good pass. He just decided to slow down on the route and then was like, oh, shoot, I got to keep going. Undisciplined. How many pre-snap penalties does this team have? Every week. Yep. Every week. Saquon Barkley is a veteran of how many years at this point, and he doesn't know how to shift properly? Yeah. How is this possible? And the reality is with the offensive line, I don't know that we're going to get the starters that we projected game 1 through game 17 to play a game together in its entirety. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen. And the problem is there are so many false starts. There are so many ineligible players downfield. It's a mess.
Yes,
absolutely. The Eagles
absolutely.
have a penalties problem. It's not officiating. The Eagles have a penalties problem. It's not good. Even with, yes, there were bad calls today, but even with the one pass interference, like on the radio, they were saying before it's not pass interference because somebody was in the area. Do I like the fact that the Broncos talked their way out of a penalty? No, I don't. But the reality is that there was a receiver close enough that initially even the Eagles broadcast did not think that it was a penalty. That's the reality. And you still had 3rd and 6 after that. What did you do after that to prevent on a 3rd and 6? We're not talking about 3rd and 1, 3rd and 6. You should be able to stop that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, You make so many great points here. You really do. And the other theme that I wanted to get into with regard to the offense is this is the first game that we have really seen Saquon Barkley making strides, making plays, whether he is juking, whether he is actually getting to the gaps that have been open for him. He was getting to the holes and he was making plays. In fact, he averaged 5 yards per carry, but he had only 30 rushing yards in this game. They gave Saquon Barkley the ball 6 times in this game, Josh. And I say to myself, okay, you've got this weapon and you've wanted to get him going because he was coming into this game averaging 3.1 yards per play or per carry. You actually have him with his longest rush of the entire season, a 17-yard play. It was a toss left play in the first quarter. It took Saquon Barkley, from what the announcer said, 79 plays for him to have that first explosive run play of the season. And what did the offensive coaching do? They said, we're just going to give you the ball 6 times this entire game. It goes to what you're saying. The offensive coaching has been absolutely horrendous through the first 5 weeks of this season. It really has. When you have Barkley, who is in that whether it's a frame of mind, I don't necessarily think it's frame of mind, but whether he's at that point now, week 5, where he's ready to hit these holes, and the offensive line was opening up those holes for him, and you get away from it. That's horrible. It's horrible coaching right there, Josh. It really is. It was really ticking me off throughout the game.
But Jeff, even more so, I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I do not believe that Denver scored out the first possession in the second half. I do not believe.
No, they didn't. No.
So that means in the third quarter, right? The third quarter, you have a 2-touchdown lead. You have Saquon Barkley, who, to your point, is averaging over 5 yards a carry. Why in the world are you calling screen passes where you have the opportunity to have ineligible receivers downfield based off of RPOs? Why in the world are you doing that? Run the ball. Like, I don't understand why this is this crazy thing. Like, if you look at Hurts' stat line throwing 38 times, you're going, well, surely they were trailing the whole game. No,
right.
They were trailing the last basically 2 minutes of the game.
Yep.
And he had 38 pass attempts. Like, I'm not a huge run the ball guy, but I am when you look at games sometimes. Like, sometimes you have to take to advantage. And you and I were texting about this. They bombed the ball down the field. Do you know what that should do? Open things up for Saquon Barkley.
Yes.
You had set the stage perfectly
to
be able to do a run-controlled clock and run out the clock. There was no need to try to get fancy.
And we're not football experts here. Like you said, we're not coaches. We've never been coaching. We've been watching football a lot in our lives, but we know this. We know this, Josh.
I'm not anti-screen passes. Like, I thought that last week, the ones to Goddard were very creative and great. The problem is they're going back to vanilla. We're going to throw it out to Smith, and we're going to see what happens.
Yeah.
Over and over again. And it's like, I get getting him the ball, but why don't you give him a little forward momentum, because it's just not doing much.
Yes. I mean, I think this game at the end of the day was just bound to happen from what we saw the first 4 weeks of the season. This was bound to happen. This team desperately needs to go back to some sort of drawing board that they have. Kevin Patullo needs to go back to something, or Nick Sirianni needs to provide some sort of offensive leadership before this short week, when they do have a New York Giants team that's not all that great, but anything is possible in this league. Anything is possible. And I will say, I do give credit to the defense, and they were out on the field for way too long during the fourth quarter when Denver was able to put up 18 total points. But I will say this about the defense as another theme: 2 sacks in this game, 8 quarterback hits, 5 tackles for a loss. But the 2 sacks, it just goes to show that even though I thought this was the defense's probably their best game of the season in terms of the pass rush, they're not getting home. They're not getting the sacks that they need to. How many times should Bo Nix have probably been sacked? probably 5 or 6 times. They are just not getting home. I think at this point in the season, as a team, they have 7 total sacks, I believe. Folks, put in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or shoot us off an email about whether or not it's not 7-7. I think it's 7 total sacks on the season after 5 weeks of play. That's a problem, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but at the same time, how much did they lose on defense last year to free agency? Like,
yeah,
I'm going to quick go back to something that you just said. I don't know that Patullo and Nick can go back and figure things out. The most explosive offense was last year's, when Nick didn't have anything to do with the offense. The worst offense that we've seen was 2 years ago when Nick decided to get more involved.
That's true.
I think Nick is a great head coach.
Yeah.
Right. But I think at this point we have enough data that shows maybe he's not the best at play calling and drawing up plays. And that's okay. Like, I would rather have a great head coach who can delegate to other areas with really good people. I have a really hard time blaming the offense or the defense when the offense is making 3 times as much money and has all of these big contracts invested in it. The defense is comprised of people that are either rookies or on rookie deals because they've spent so much money on the other side of the ball. I applaud Vic Fangio for even being able to have the defense at mediocrity, and they're well above that. Like,
it's a great point. It is.
I trust Vic Fangio to be able to go and make changes because he's seen that. But do I love the pass rush? Not necessarily. But I think some teams may just be adjusting to Vic Fangio, and he's got to adjust, and I trust him to do that. The offense, I do not.
All right, buddy. Do you have any other themes here before we go to a quick break, and then we'll get back and then we'll do the grades? Do you have any other themes?
Philadelphia sports is pain. That's my main theme.
It's so true. It really is. It's painful, folks. Painful. Philadelphia Phillies, Philadelphia Eagles. My goodness. Well, we got the Flyers coming up. Let's see what happens with them. We got our Flyers season preview coming this week.
Go Flyers.
Yes, Josh just put up his fist for all of you listening there. All right. Well, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe to us. We greatly appreciate that. Share our YouTube channel, share our podcast, our video podcast with your friends and family. And we're also on the socials as well out there. We are over on the Twitter/X. I'm over on TikTok at Mr. Jeff Warren. You can also follow us on Instagram. We're over on Facebook Threads. Eric and I are over on Blue Sky as well. So with that being said here, we're going to take a break. We're going to pay some bills. When we get back, we're going to get into the grades. We're going to grade each unit and the coaching. Stick with us. All right, we are back with our good buddy Josh Schuster from PhiladelphiaSoccerNow.com, and let's grade this Philadelphia Eagles team by unit, and then the coaches. Jalen Hurts this week, I'm actually going to give him an A-. I think and it goes to what you were saying earlier. It could be a B+, but I'm going to give him an A-. I believe he was asked to do certain things in this game, and he did them. You know, not perfect by any stretch. That's where the minus comes from. But A-, you do look at the stats, and it's 23 of 38, 280 yards, 7.4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, and he ended with a rating of 100.8. That's what you want from your quarterback in a lot of ways from week to week. And he was asked to do what he was asked to do this week. So, and he did it. So I'm going to give him an A-. What do you give Hurts?
I'm going to give him an A. I'm going to give him a notch above, I guess. Even the last throw of the game, right? Like the Hail Mary that he throws, you have 3 Eagles wide receivers right there, and they couldn't make a play. Like I'm not. To me, this game is not on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And I think that if you are trying to blame him, I really question your football knowledge.
Yeah.
I think he's really just I think he's handcuffed by the play calling. We don't even really see him scrambling much anymore.
We don't.
Right?
We don't.
Other than those predictable QB draws. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't trust him. I don't know. I'm not going beyond that speculation. In terms of this grade, he gets an A. He was doing what he was told.
It's bizarre when you look at the rushing and the box score. Jalen Hurts only had 2 for 3 yards. His legs were nowhere to be found today. Very good point. So let's move to the running backs. Saquon Barkley, as I mentioned earlier, 6 carries for 30 yards. He averaged 5 yards per carry. Yeah, they brought in A.J. Dillon, 2 carries on the day for 12 yards. He averaged 6 yards per carry. Will Shipley only had 1 carry, and he did not get any yards on that. I mean, I got to say that the running backs did what they needed to do as well. Again, came down to play call. I mean, I give him an A-. What do you give him?
Yeah, I'm going to give him an A- simply because I had to watch Will Shipley for years kill me as a South Carolina fan when he was at Clemson.
Yes.
And I still am very bitter about that. So the fact that he had a carry and got nothing, the whole running back room gets an A- for me. But yeah,
All right.
I mean, they did what they were asked to do and did it well. And I just don't understand the play calling.
Yep. Well, let's move over to the wide receivers here. Again, as I mentioned before the break, DeVonta Smith was targeted 10 times, came down with 8 balls for 114 yards. Saquon Barkley was targeted 3 times, caught all those balls for 58 yards. We certainly were excited when we saw that 47-yard wheel route. Basically, it turned into a touchdown. He averaged 19.3 yards per reception, mainly because of that. A.J. Brown was targeted 8 times, came down with 5 balls for 43 yards. And then you got Jahan Dotson being targeted 3 times and he only came down 1 ball for 24 yards. But look at this, Dallas Goedert. A lot of dinking and dunking to Dallas Goedert. 9 targets today, came down with 3 balls for 19 yards. Goddard averaged 6.3 yards per reception and 1 touchdown. Grant Calcaterra had 2 targets. Will Shipley had 2 targets. Not too much else to mention about those 2 guys. But the wide receivers this week, I'm going to give them a B+. There were certain aspects, whether it was A.J. Brown kind of slowing down on that route. You mentioned Grant Calcaterra slowing down on that route that he had in the first quarter. I think the wide receivers could have gotten a little bit more separation, perhaps, for Jalen to get him the ball in certain critical times during the game, and they didn't get it done. I'm going to give them a B+. What do you give the wide receivers?
Yeah, about the same, except for one thing. This grade will slide up to an A if I get another cryptic social media post from A.J. Brown. I need a distraction from pain right now. I need some philosopher's quote or something like that where, sports talk can run wild for 4 days because they play on Thursday.
Yes. All right. Sounds good. All right. Offensive line. Oy. I mean, it was kind of all over the place. It was certainly not what we saw. I mean, when Landon Dickerson went out, man, he is so important to this line. He really is.
But he's not when he's not healthy.
That is true. That is absolutely
true. He is
true.
not healthy right now and has not been, and is having a very bad season.
Yep. Jordan Mailata was getting beat up today too. I mean, those defensive ends were getting into the backfield. He was having a tough game as well. I'm going to give the offensive line this week a C, actually. What do you give them?
Yeah, I think part of the reason, Jeff, why our grade is a C is because we've seen such great offensive line play for years.
Hurts was sacked 6
probably
times.
If you ask like Giants fans about the Eagles' performance, they'd probably be like, yeah, A- from the offensive line. Like, right. Hey, you didn't get sacked every play. But yeah, I would say by Eagles standard, we'll go with the C.
Okay. Like I said, 6 sacks on Jalen Hurts today. Getting a little tired of this.
Some of them he did run into, like to be fair.
Very true. Very true.
So
yes.
I think C is fair.
Okay. Let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. The defensive line, like I mentioned earlier, I think this defensive front in general had their best game of the season. Just are not able to get home. 2 sacks on the day, 8 quarterback hits. I'm going to give the defensive line. I'm going to give them a B+ this week. What do you give them?
I'm actually going to give them a C- because one of the sacks came from the linebackers. So I can't really attribute that to the defensive line. So I would say C-. And if they can start turning some of these pressures into sacks, things will turn around and I'll give them a higher grade, but C-.
You know what? I'm going down to a B simply because I'm remembering now how Jalen Carter fell for that trick 4th down play in the first quarter that gave the Broncos the first down where he jumped off sides. That's just a lack of discipline. I'm actually going down to a B just because of that right there. It goes to what we're talking about, like a lack of discipline sometimes with this team every now and again. He didn't spit on anybody, thankfully, in this game, but still there's lack of discipline,
Yep.
All right. The linebackers in this game, I'm going to give them a B+ overall. It probably would have been an A, but with Zach Bond and his crappy decision making at the end of the game, that's going down for me, because it really did hurt the team in rated in a spot where they didn't need that. So I'm gonna give them a B+. What do you give them?
Yeah, I think B+ is fair, and I think part of this grade is based off of, again, the linebacker play that we've seen for so many years here in Philadelphia. That's been an atrocity. I mean, if you look at the last 2 drives of the Broncos, I mean, they have players just wide open in the middle of the field. The linebackers really struggled in the second half with coverage. But overall, I would say B+, but I lean towards that grade being that way because of previous linebacker play.
Yeah. Well, Courtland Sutton, as we move over to the secondary and grading the secondary, Courtland Sutton really had himself a day. 99 yards on 10 targets. He averaged 12.4 yards per reception. You say, okay, he didn't even hit 100 yards, but he was really eating in the fourth quarter. He was getting the best of Quinyon Mitchell every now and again, and Quinyon was doing such a fantastic job with him all game. But it gets to the point where your defense is tired. They're out on the field because your offense can't do anything. I think the secondary in general, while they didn't have the greatest game in the world, I thought they stepped up in big moments as well. I'm actually going to give the secondary a B+ this week. What do you give them?
Yeah, I'm going to give him C+.
C+, okay.
My grade is mostly based on Guantanamo Bay. To me, when on that 3rd and 6 play, I'm sorry, you're playing up on him. I think you are a better player than Courtland Sutton.
Yeah.
You need to make a play, man. Like I keep hearing top corner, great corner, elite corners make that play. You didn't. And so for me, I think we both can agree I have been pretty easygoing on the defense here. But for me, they had the chance after a bad call to be able to make a play, and Quentin Mitchell didn't. So you know what? You're going to get, I'll say C-.
Okay. C-. All right.
Yeah, C-.
Wow. I was at a B+.
I'm getting more angry as I talk about it, Jeff.
You really are. I can tell. Oh my gosh, I can tell. All right. We got to get to special teams now, because I'll tell you right now, we've seen some great stuff from special teams this year. And look, I enjoyed watching Jahan Dotson's punt return towards the end of the third quarter, put the Eagles in really good field position, but that they ended up, I was just going to say, they completely squandered that. Braden Mann averaged 51.3 yards per punt, 2 touchbacks, which really did stink. Jake Elliott had a fine day at 1 field goal of 31 yards, made both of his extra points, and not much really to write home about in terms of the kick returns. Yes, Will Shipley did have a 37-yarder, but still, special teams pretty average this week, so I'm just going to give them a straight up B. What do you give them?
Well, they didn't score any points, so obviously it's an F. After the last couple of weeks, no, I would say I'd give them a B. I think they did good. I think there were some really great returns. Some got taken back by holding. The offense just completely blew. Considering, especially what we were looking at from, was it last week or the week before, where they couldn't even field a kickoff or a punt.
Yes. It was right after they got Tank Bigsby too. And Tank Bigsby was like, I've never held a football before at all.
I wish you could see Jeff's response.
Watch on YouTube. You can, folks.
There you go. A plug for YouTube. I would say B. I really think that the special teams did really the best they can. And I don't think it's fair to expect a blocked field goal, kick return, all this craziness that has happened this year for them.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Vic Fangio, his coaching this week, I'm going to give him a straight up B. What do you give Vic Fangio this week?
I'm going to give him an A-. If you in 2025, if you hold a team, and I saw people calling Bo Nix trash on Twitter. I'm sorry. He is an NFL quarterback who's probably going to have a pretty good career. If you can hold Bo Nix to 21 points in 2025, sorry, I'm going to give him an A-.
Look, Bo Nix almost threw 40 passes. He was 24 of 39, 242 yards. He averaged 6.2 yards per attempt, and he had a touchdown. He ended with a rating of 87.8. Yeah, if you look at the quarterback duel here, Jalen Hurts is the winner of that quarterback duel, but Bo Nixon is second year here? Not bad. Those are not bad numbers, and it's not bad what he did with this team. He was able to deliver. Mm-hmm. He was able to deliver the offensive vision that the Denver Broncos had more than the Eagles offense was able to deliver whatever, quote, vision that the Eagles offensive coordinators had. So I give him credit.
Yeah, I'm going to give Vic a pass on the final 3 points. Really, they held the Broncos to 18 points. They held them to less than 20 points, and the offense could not do anything, so they got the ball back. Sorry, it really is 18 points. I'm not too upset.
And I'm going to give the offensive coaching this week, the offensive coaching of Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo. They're going to get a D from me. I think that's absolutely the right grade, because look, there were some good things we saw, but again, go back to the top of what we were talking about. They just weren't able. It's just predictable. You get a D when you're a predictable offense. You just do.
And
so what do you
lose.
Yes, and you lose. What do you give them? What grade?
Yeah, I give him a D.
Give him a D.
I think that we started off like B+ level, and the second half was an F. It was an F. So I'll give him a D, and I feel like that's pretty generous considering how predictable everything is.
I tell you, these tale of two halves here every week. It's really enraging, and the fact that this team is 4-1.
It's the offense. It's really the offense just cannot even play 45 minutes. I just don't get it. I know. Again, the Philadelphia Union are our saviors this weekend. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh. Yes. All right. Again, he is Josh Schuster, folks, from PhiladelphiaSoccerNow.com. We love going over and visiting that website. A lot of great content over there. Again, PhiladelphiaSoccerNow.com. Any final thoughts, buddy, before I let you go here and before we look towards the New York Giants matchup this Thursday night? Yeah, non-Eagles related. Philadelphia Soccer Now is going to be putting out some good content with the playoffs starting here for the Union.
Nice.
So I want to make sure I give them a plug. There's a lot of really great writers, and most of them do this volunteer-wise. They're really great writers, and they put out really great stuff. So maybe you, after last night and today, you want to follow a winner and you're desperate to watch something winning. Feel free to check that out and learn a little bit more about the team. But the last 24 hours, as a parent of 8-year-old who is really getting into Philly sports, I now, after having to tell him this morning when he went to bed that the Phillies were up 3-0, when he went to bed that they lost this morning, and watch his heart be completely crushed.
Brutal.
And then dropping him off at home before coming back here for some meetings and stuff. And the Eagles were winning. And now I get to go back home and tell him, no, they lost, and see my crushed 8-year-old's face again is
the
just
worst. It's brutal.
Great.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. Eagles, come on.
Week 5 or week 6 against the New York Giants. We're hoping for different results, folks. And we're certainly going to have our Eagles postgame podcast show after that game as well. He is Josh Schuster, again, from PhiladelphiaSoccerNow.com. I'm Jeff Warren. Again, the Philadelphia Eagles losing week 5 here in the 2025-2026 season to the Denver Broncos at the Linc by a score of 21-17. That's going to do it for us, everybody. We will catch you next time. Take care.